Okay.
Erev Tov. Shalom, everyone. And here we are. Good. Okay. So first of all, what we've done in previous shiurim, just some points, not everything. We discussed the Zohar that says, Leit machshavat fisa beklal. No, a person cannot comprehend Hashem at all. We spoke about the Rambam and the idea of negative theology. We can't say what Hashem is. We can only say he's not this and he's not that. And the point is to reconcile rational knowledge with religious belief, because religious belief cannot be totally rational. It doesn't have to contradict rationality, but it can't be only contained within rationale. And also not denying divinity, but recognizing that God's essence is unknowable. Some people confuse the two. If you don't say what God is, that means that you don't really believe in him. And if you do say what he is, oh, now you got a real God. And this is saying the opposite. You believe in something divine, but you cannot define it and recognize it as it is. We mentioned HaRav Kook. I'm going to take 2 points from HaRav Kook. One is that in his introduction to faith, he speaks about the fact that there can be positive and negative aspects of faith. And we have to be aware of that, and to take, of course, to cultivate the positive and to understand how to deal with the negative. Also, there are many passages on the subject of what do we believe in and what not, and I'm trying to organize them and at the same time not to over dwell on it, and that's what we're going to continue today, what we spoke about 2 weeks ago. And of course, the Likutei Moharan, Reb Nachman, that we spoke about, who says that there will always be questions about Hashem, because that is Hashem. Hashem is beyond far beyond our understanding. And therefore, chas v'shalom, if we understood Hashem, it means not that we rose to a great level where we can understand Hashem. It means we brought Hashem down to a level that we can understand, but then it's not really Hashem. Okay, so these are good introductions to what we've been discussing. We discussed last time 2 weeks ago. By the way, let me just make sure, even though it's being recorded, are we okay for 2 weeks from now? I'm okay. This 2 weeks from now today is August 5th, so 2 weeks from now is the 19th.
Yeah.
I think I'm landing that day, but I don't know the time.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get you in the taxi on the way home.
Yeah.
Tova, you're okay?
Yeah, I think so.
Michael? Michael, is that okay for you?
The 19th.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So we will meet again in 2 weeks, and then we'll take a break because I will be away for 2 weeks. Okay, and then it will be Elul and coming close to Rosh Hashanah and so on. Okay, here we go. So I'm not going to read all of this we studied 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to repeat all of it, but I'm going to focus on those parts that are bolded. Like I made them more bold, and that's what we'll read. And there's the whole background around it. I will mention once again the headline that says that the headline is in Hebrew, Yisurim Memarkim. Yisurim, suffering, pain, and the pain cleanses or purifies. And my question is, why is that the headline? But we will return to that when we're done with this long piece of HaRav Kook. So just to go through quickly those parts that I focused on from what we saw last time. One must always refine their thinking so that it is clear and free of slags, things that are impure, meaning that you can believe in Hashem, and it's like something that's not refined. It's like gold or silver with slags, and some of what you're thinking is pure and some of it is mistaken. So you always have to refine your thinking about Emunah. The main point of Emunah, says HaRav Kook, is the essence of faith lies in the greatness of perfect infinite. It's not something tangible. It's not something that we define that is what we believe in. The main content, the essence of faith, is that I believe in something that is greater than anything I can define. It's something perfect and infinite, beyond what I can grasp. And if one uses words and uses attributes of God, says HaRav Kook, we have to understand that all of it is merely what the soul longs for in its origin, above and beyond everything. When we speak about Hashem, we're trying to clothe Hashem. We're trying to give terminology to something which is far beyond. If you can please mute yourselves. Please mute yourselves. Because we have some background noise here. Or 1 second, I will try and do that. Okay. Okay, so if we use attributes, it's a way for us to try and speak about something that's not tangible, but something that we long for. And we long for it, but we don't know it because it's greater than our ability to understand things. And we long for it in its origin, I explained 2 weeks ago, because it is our origin. We seek Hashem, we long for Hashem. It's like a child looking for their parent, trying to connect to their parent. This is part of who I am. So I try to connect to my source, to my origin, but I can't understand who and what that exactly is. And in the same way, HaRav Kook says, when I use the name God or Elohim in the Hebrew text, what he's saying is, I'm not saying something that I know. I'm giving a name to something that I yearn for. I yearn for my origin, and I call it Elohim. But it doesn't mean that I know what it is. I'm trying to say something about it. What I'm really saying is I'm yearning for something. Every definition, if I do define what Hashem is, says HaRav Kook, it leads to heresy. The definition in itself is a form of spiritual idolatry, meaning I'm not creating a physical statue, but it's not that far. A physical statue is saying I need something tangible. This is what I believe in. And if I give a definition to what God is, I'm giving a spiritual or philosophical form to God, and that in itself is a form of idolatry. So we're moving far away from that. And at the same time, HaRav Kook stresses that the king's garments, I used the term before, we try to clothe Hashem. We try to give Hashem some kind of framework that we can relate to. HaRav Kook says we do this because it gives us the ability to try and move and bring ourselves closer to Hashem, like a ladder that we try to climb, even though we'll never get to the top. But we're trying to come closer to a connection to Hashem. So then HaRav Kook compares this to garments. The Kabbalah uses the term garments, levushim. As we don't know Hashem himself, we try to clothe him and there in that way connect to the way he appears before us, appears in the world, not physically. But if you tear the king's garments and you say, but I wasn't rebelling against the king, I didn't touch the king wasn't even didn't have not even a little scratch. Nonetheless, it's considered that you are raising a hand against the king, and you might be liable to death penalty because you're hurting the king, even if you didn't hurt him himself. You hurt his clothes. So on the one hand, HaRav Kook is saying we must clarify the distinctions between what is Hashem and the terms that we're using, the ladder to try and come closer to Hashem, clarify and make a distinction between that and Hashem himself. At the same time, if you raise a hand against the garment, that's not good. So we should use the terms, the terminology, the tools that the tradition has given us to try and connect to Hashem, but we should always make the distinction and remember that that is not Hashem himself. In the same way, if you believe in Hashem, fixed in a particular and familiar form, I know exactly what Hashem is, A, B, C, and D, because this is what was given down in tradition. This is what my parents, my rabbis taught me. And if you understand that to be not a ladder to try and come closer to Hashem, but as Hashem himself, that, HaRav Kook says again, as he said before, this is a spark of the flaw of making an image or idol. You're not physically making a statue, but it's the same idea of making an image of Hashem rather than believing in something which is beyond my understanding. And based on this idea, says HaRav Kook, this is what we ended with 2 weeks ago, this last sentence. Heresy has a temporary right to exist because it must digest the defilement that has clung to faith due to a complete lack of study and effort in this area. For so many generations, people were not knowledgeable, learned enough, wise enough, with enough tools to discuss emunah, to analyze emunah, and therefore emunah was what it was, with a lot of defiled things clinging onto it. And now, as I gave the example 2 weeks ago, you come with a very powerful hose and you're washing off a lot of dirt from something. It doesn't mean that you're causing damage to to that thing itself. You have a same example. You have a piece of gold. What did you tell me 2 weeks ago is the name for a piece of gold? There's a term when you sell blocks of gold. What are they called? In any case, you have a piece of gold.
Talking
There's
about
a lot of
ingot.
Sorry?
An ingot, I-N-G-O-T.
I-N-G-O-T. Oh, thank you. So you have an ingot with a lot of mud on it, or you have a diamond with a lot of mud on it, and you wash it with this very strong hose, this very strong, powerful flow of water from this very strong hose, and somebody's going to get upset with you and think that you're trying to damage the gold or the diamond, and what you're doing is cleaning it from dirt that has clung onto it. So in the same way, heresy, the right for heresy to exist in the world is because it challenges our faith. We have to reanalyze our faith, and therefore we refine it, we take away, we carve away and cut off those parts of defilement that have clung to our faith, that think of Hashem as a physical being and so on, and we are actually refining our faith and not causing damage to it. Of course, along the way, there are people, because of the challenge of heresy, they totally lose their faith. But the way to deal with that is not to try and shut down and shut out the people who express heresy, because you're not going to be able to do that. It has a goal. It has a role in the world. The way to deal with it is to study, to deepen our understanding of faith, and then to differentiate, to like HaRav Kook said before, what was the word he used? To make a distinction between what is the faith and what are defilements that have clung onto the faith. And in this way, heresy will end up bringing a blessing to faith and refining our faith. That's HaRav Kook's idea. This is the main thing. When you meet heretics in the world, you think they're all against me. It's all or nothing. It's me against them. It's a fight for life and death. If they live, I die. If I want to live, I have to kill them. So no, we're not saying physically kill them, but I have to wipe them out. I have to show that they're totally wrong. HaRav Kook is saying that's not right. That's not going to succeed. There is some truth to what they're saying. They are there to clean away some defilement that has clung to faith. Therefore, what you have to do is to study their questions and to be able to make a distinction between what they're good questions they're asking, and helps us refine our faith, and the way they exaggerate and overdo it, and that part to reject. It's not easy. That's the only way to really deal with heresy and bring out the blessing, the potential of blessing that lays within this process and phenomenon of heresy in our times. Now we continue. This is something we didn't see before. This is the entire purpose of heresy in the world, to strip away the fixed forms that have obscured the essential thought of divinity that permeates all existence. The essential thought of divinity is much greater than the way we think of Hashem as a parable of a king, and he's somewhere up there in heaven and he controls the world and punishes the bad guys and gives reward for the good people. It makes it very, very, very vulgar, very human. Of course, we need parables to speak anything about Hashem, but don't take them literally. Make that distinction between the tools to be able to connect to Hashem and what Hashem really is. Because we didn't do that, we have all these fixed forms that people think that is divinity, and no. The essential thought of divinity is something much greater that permeates all existence. Hashem is within us. Can you think of praying, of tefillah, as praying to myself? Not because I'm God, because God is within me. There's a Hasidic Rebbe, and I didn't think of this before. It came to my mind right now. There's a Hasidic Rebbe called Pinchas Shapira Mikoritz, one of the earliest generations of Hasidut, a student of the Baal Shem Tov. And just by chance, he happens to be my great great grandfather, Mashu Kaze. My father's mother was Shapira, lineage right back to Rav Pinchas Shapira Mikoritz. And I have a book of his, a very small book, and he has all kinds of drashot. And he says people think that in prayer and tefillah, I'm praying to Hashem, and he says, no, prayer is Hashem. Meaning when I bring out spirituality in myself, I'm bringing out the godliness that is within me. So, but then of course it's dangerous. I can be God. Next thing you know, we'll be talking about the Son of God another time. So of course we have to make distinctions, but there's something good there. And the essential thought of divinity is that it's within everywhere in the world, all existence. But, says HaRav Kook, but to what uprooting is divine providence directing us? There's hashgacha. There's providence here. Heresy exists because divine providence is directing us somewhere. Says HaRav Kook, to the uprooting of the slags, the impurities that merely block the human being from the light of the true divine. And upon the ruins left in the wake of heresy, the lofty knowledge of God will build its sanctuary. We've been using recently the parables of the two ways of renewing buildings in Medinat Yisrael today. One is Tama, you take the building and you improve it, you strengthen it. The other is Pinui Binu, you take it down, you build a newer, better building. So wouldn't it be beautiful if we could just do Tama to our faith and make it better and refine it? But sometimes people are not willing to budge. They're stuck in their old ways and in their understanding what they've gotten used to in Emunah. And so sometimes we need heresy. Divine providence guides the world or runs the world in such a way that there is heresy that totally uproots the Emunah. What it's really doing is uprooting the slags and purifying and refining Emunah. But sometimes what happens is that it causes a lot of ruins, a lot of damage. But don't give up. Don't go that way. Don't be like the ruins. Don't lose your Emunah. Don't throw it away because you have serious questions. You're an intelligent person and you ask serious questions about Emunah that your great-great-grandparents didn't ask. Don't be afraid of it. Use that as an opportunity to refine our Emunah. Don't join the ruins. But once the ruins are there and we see them in the world, there are a lot of ruins, people left without any form of Emunah. Once the ruins are there, the way to help people out of them is to rebuild Emunah in a better way. Not to try and push them back to the Emunah of their great-grandparents a few generations ago, but to help them rebuild a new, refined Emunah that will be more, as I said, more refined than that of previous generations. Again, says HaRav Kook, from time to time, the mixture of pure faith and divine unity within the darkness of anthropomorphism, too long that word, we know what it says, becomes increasingly clarified. Sometimes pure faith and divine unity is there, but we use such terminology that is an anthropomorphism of Hashem. It gets all mixed together, and we have to clarify and define and make sure that we see the difference, make the distinction between the two. And every time a certain element of anthropomorphism falls away, it may seem as though faith itself is collapsing. Remember that, I'm sorry, Michael, what did you call it? That piece of gold?
He called it an ingot.
Ingot. But you may be thinking of the term a nugget. A nugget.
I was just going to say, I had that term in my head.
Right,
yes.
right.
So you see that nugget or that diamond, that mud has been stuck on it, and what happens is you see pieces of what you thought were this gold or this diamond falling off. You think it's faith itself that is collapsing. It may seem as though faith itself is collapsing, but says HaRav Kook, no, afterward it becomes clear that faith has not fallen, but rather been refined. The mud that was stuck on it has been washed off. It looks at a certain moment, it looks like faith itself is collapsing, but no, faith has been clarified and has been refined. When witnessing such tremors of light, people think that faith is crumbling, that the world is turning upside down. But in truth, it is the shadows that are shifting and retreating, clearing way for the light. If you're used to a certain picture of the area that you're familiar with, and during the day there's sunlight and there are shadows, or at night there's a light and there are shadows, and then somebody makes the light greater and the shadows move, and you think that something terrible is happening, everything is falling apart. What is this, an earthquake? It's not an earthquake. It's the light has grown larger, and so the shadows are shifting and retreating, and it's making way for more light. So help the process along carefully, but don't fall apart. Don't give up and think that faith has lost the battle. But precisely when the lights tremble and threaten to shatter the vessels, this is the parable again of Kabbalah. Kabbalah speaks about the creation of the world as a shattering of vessels. In Hebrew, it's shvirat kelim. If you have a vessel, if you have a glass cup, glass case, and you pour water into it and it's all full, and you keep on pouring water, it will overflow. But what if it's all closed off and you keep on pushing more and more and more something, content, water, whatever it is into it, it's going to shatter at some point. And when it shatters, it gets broken up into little pieces and scattered all over the place. So what this parable of Kabbalah is saying is that God is great for the world to contain. So you try and make a world which is finite, and then you have Hashem who is infinite, and you try to put Hashem into the world, and it shatters the vessel. The world can't contain God. So the vessel is shattered, and God's light is spread all over the world. And that's called nitzotzot. In the Kabbalah, that's called nitzotzot, small lights. And the idea of the Kabbalah is that the role of mankind is to go around the world and gather those nitzotzot and put them together and make the light great again. So in our lives, if we find some lights of faith and we put them together, and we put them together with other good people, other believers, and we try to make the light of Hashem great. So this is HaRav Kook is now taking this parable and saying this same idea again. When the lights tremble and threaten to shatter the vessels, we must summon tremendous resolve to affirm that indeed the letters, the words, the deeds, and the forms are not themselves the essence of the light, but they are its vessels, organs of a living body that carries within it the splendor of the soul. If a person, if something in our body is changing and one atom is falling off and a new one is growing instead of it, things like that, we're not falling apart, we're growing. It's organs of a living body. Something is going through a change, like a person, like a child who's growing, and some things that were good before are no good anymore. He can't function with the small hands and legs that he had a few years ago. He needs larger hands and legs. He also needs a larger head, a larger brain, and more understanding. He can't function as a grown-up with the understanding of a child. And for an example, if you only give a child the understanding, a person, the understanding of faith of kindergarten, and God is some beautiful grandpa up in the sky above the clouds that gives out candies to children who behave themselves, then when he's 15, he starts asking questions, and until 25, everybody puts him down and tells him it's heresy to ask these questions, and no one teaches him how to grow and make a positive process of the growth and refinement of his emunah. So when he's 25, he's going to be a heretic who believes that it's all nonsense, because this faith, this emunah that he was taught as a child is shtuyot, is total nonsense. And he's right. Not because faith is nonsense, God forbid, because what he was taught is good for a child and not good for a grown-up. So we have to help him grow. So in the same way, sometimes the growth is not one person from age 5 to age 25, but the world from this century to the next century to 2 centuries later. There's a process going on, which is helping emunah grow and become more and more refined. Woe to those who strip them, even of their value as vessels, who erase and remove the sanctity from the letters, the words, the actions, and the images, even within their own domain. Again, don't, what was the term that HaRav Kook used before? Don't tear the king's garments. Don't make the vessels unimportant. Don't say that the vessels lack any value. Use them as vessels, but they are the vessels and not God himself. They are the words and the actions and the images that we use in order to be able to bring ourselves closer to God, in order to refine our understanding. They are very important in that way. Don't stop davening and using names of Hashem in terms where you say Hashem rachum v'chanun, erech hapayim v'rav chesed, Hashem does mercy, and then you're going to come with a philosophical question and say Hashem doesn't do anything because it is beyond our understanding, so we can't pray. No, use the prayer because the prayer is helping us understand the power of what Hashem can do. It doesn't mean that we know exactly what Hashem is and how he does it. So refine your emunah. At the same time, don't let go of the frameworks and the vessels of emunah. Last lines, and then we can discuss. Such a person who doesn't value the vessels anymore at all, who strips them from any value, such a person will be left mute, without speech, stunned, without inner imagery. It doesn't have any imagery of emunah, broken and shattered entirely, devoid of practical strength, spiritual strength, swept away by barren currents that drain his entire being, body and soul, spirit and soul spark. Soul spark, soul is ruach or nefesh, ruach and neshama, soul, spirit, and for some reason in English they translate it as soul spark. Okay, it's in Hebrew nefesh, ruach and neshama. He will be out without a body, without nefesh, without ruach, without neshama. If we don't use tools, we can't exist. We're human beings. Think of our relationships with other human beings. If we don't use our bodies, if we don't use our hands, our abilities, our understanding, our eyes, to be able to connect with one another and do something good, then we'll be left without being able to experience anything in life. On the other hand, if we think that the importance is only the physical action, not the emotion, not the spiritual connection, and so on, so we'll be with vessels that are empty from spiritual content. Again, put those two aspects together. That's the idea that HaRav Kook is coming to. Okay, I think we studied a lot and spoke a lot. Nitael is going to say something.
Yeah, I have a
Please
question.
go ahead.
Are we really wanting to define who Hashem is? Because the question is not for me. The question is not here. If you are faith in Hashem, I mean that wherever it is, whatever it is, you believe that there is a God, and you believe that He is here, and we have to do the mitzvot, and we have to improve who we are and become better for us, for against the others, and to improve the world. So the real faith is knowing that Hashem exists wherever it is. So all what we have here, except the last paragraph and the last sentence when he said the word, the action, and the images, and it's I think that in fact for me it's difficult to say that we are heretic and try to define who Hashem is, because this is not the real faith. The real faith is the acts, in fact, and to believe and to behave. To be a good human being. And
well, first of all, it is a very difficult question. Not your question. The whole question that we're discussing here, it's a very difficult challenge. It's a very difficult thing for all of us to do in life. It's a great challenge of our lives to follow someone's commands that we never see and we can never define. And like we said a couple of sessions ago, we spoke about the parable, the paragraph where Hashem says that the basic idea of emunah is very simple, that this creation is not a coincidence. There's something behind it, but different than things in this world, we can never find it. And we've so much improved our abilities, our scientific abilities of understanding why there's an eclipse and why there's thunder and why there's this and why there's that. And even as DNA and police investigations, whatever, we can find out a lot of things, and we can't find out who is Hashem. So that's a barrier. That's a barrier for people that's very difficult. So then there are two negative solutions. One of them is to try and define Hashem. And the other one is to say, well, because I don't see him and can't find him, then I just give up on everything. I'm not going to fulfill commandments of someone that I can never connect with. So I give up. Those are the two negatives. So again, one negative is giving up. The other negative is trying to define Hashem. And HaRav Kook is saying, when we do that by defining Hashem, then that's also going to cause damage in the end, because people are going to reject that because it's wrong. And so we have to, part of the refinement of Emunah, create within ourselves that ability to believe in something that's beyond our comprehension and yet to follow his commands. And I think we have to get into the, why do I do that? Why do I believe in Hashem, in the Torah? Because of the creation, because of the history of Am Yisrael, because of miracles that I've seen, because of amazing things that have happened in the history of the world. So these are the reasons why I believe that there's something there that I can't find him, but yet I'm steadfast in my belief that there's something out there, and he's communicated something to us. So I follow those commandments. But I can't follow the commandments if I don't have any way of relating to the question. What do? I never see him, I never hear him, I can't meet him, and you want me to follow his commands. So either I have to define him or I'm going to walk away. You have to deal with that. Those people who say to us, it's one or the other. Either you give me a definition or I'm leaving. And we have to work on developing and refining our own abilities of thinking and discussing Emunah. And then what happens is throughout generations that we've used a lot of words, a lot of terminologies, a lot of frameworks that we say Hashem is this, Hashem is that. And okay, if we understand that Hashem is not any one of these words, and at the same time the importance of these words, then we can work with that. That's the basis of how to make progress. And sometimes we've taken those words and made them so tangible, and we really believe, I know Hashem is A, B, and C. And then comes heresy to clean away those mistakes and to enable us to grow. And sometimes growth is a process of generations, not even of one person's lifetime, a process of generations. Eliezer.
Hi, I'm just keeping the video close because this keeps on breaking. I think I agree. I want to continue with what Netanel said, that it seems sometimes that if you're yearning for Hashem, that's very problematic, because you have no way, as you said, you have no way of knowing who Hashem is. All you can yearn for is to do the actions of Hashem. And you look around at the world and you see the light of Hashem. So you don't have to keep on looking for the source of the light. You can look at the light and you can look for what Hashem wants. And how you find that? Well, it's clear. It's written in the Torah. So you just look at our heritage, and you don't, and you can just try to yearn to do what Hashem wants rather than yearn for Hashem. At least that's the way I feel.
I agree, but I have to say that I also have to identify with the difficulty of carrying that out, in the sense of you really do have to understand that it's very difficult for people, and again I'll mention that science, because in the past a lot of people, their attitude is that in the past we couldn't explain things happening in the world, so we had to believe that there's someone above who's making the decisions, who's making things happen. He's causing an eclipse, or he's causing an earthquake, or he's making the sound of thunder, or whatever it is. And because science today can explain how this world functions and works, not totally, never totally, but on a pretty impressive level, because of that, people say, well, today, so we don't need a belief in something that we never see. So they choose lack of belief rather than a refinement of belief. So it is a serious challenge. And I'm happy that you identify with the tools that we have to deal with it. But I think that often parents, teachers, rabbis face questions in emunah, and they put them down and they shut them out because either they don't have tools to deal with them themselves, or they're afraid of what HaRav Kook said. And they're right. There's a reason to be afraid, because sometimes they leave ruins behind them. But the answer is not to be afraid and shut it out, because it's not, you can't stop it. The answer is to make yourself greater in emunah, study philosophy, improve your abilities in speaking with people and teaching people and enabling them, helping them along in a process of refining their own emunah. That's what we should be training ourselves to do, whether as teachers or as lay people or whatever it is. I think we have to train ourselves to do that, and it's not easy. But I'm glad you have a tool that is constructive for you. So try to see how you can use that tool to offer it to other people as well.
So let me jump in for a minute. It struck me when you were speaking a little earlier that you're reminding me of a book I read many years ago. It's called Catch-22. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, Rabbi.
Familiar with the term, yeah.
Okay, well, it comes from a novel that became very, very popular because it's basically a paradox.
Right.
He would put his characters into a situation where if you do one thing, you lose. If you do the opposite of that, you lose. And there's no place to go. So, we talk about people today don't know enough to rebuke somebody. I've heard that term.
Right.
Do people today know enough to be a heretic?
Maybe not. HaRav Kook uses that in a different place. You're giving me a good idea. I have to write this down. Good point, but sometimes not. But I would say sometimes the process is that a person grows up in a home full of faith, at least a certain form of faith, but then he lives in a different generation than his parents, and it's a generation that's more learned after the Enlightenment, and his abilities, his tools for thinking and processing and asking questions are much greater, and he asks these questions, and his parents can't answer them, and then he becomes, he asks all the questions, no direction for answers. He becomes a heretic, and then his son doesn't even ask the questions and doesn't even know that there's a question, and doesn't do anything about it. And he is in the situation where you're saying, I don't even think I can call him a heretic. Or sometimes there are also people in the world who are wise people, and they know that maybe there is a God and maybe there isn't, and we can't really know for sure, and we can't give a philosophical, scientific proof and know for in a definite way that he exists and connect with him and get the commandments from him. So therefore, they'll say, yes, I believe in God, but I have nothing to do with that in my life. They're not saying I'm an atheist, but there's nothing religious I can do about it because nobody's going to prove to me that they got the right connection or anything like that. So again, these are different forms and avenues that people take because either they're wise or they became wiser than others and didn't have a way to continue growing in that. And I think we have a responsibility to try and develop our abilities and the ways that we are going to help different people along different paths. So maybe that's what I'm trying to say. For some people, they're strong heretics, and we need to help their thinking along. For some people, they're non-heretics that haven't even been given a chance. And you're right, that's a different form. And there's no reason to rebuke a person like that because, it's not only a question of do I have the knowledge to rebuke him? What am I going to rebuke him about? Nobody ever taught you? So I'll try and make a relevant shiur about emunah that's going to it's going to interest him enough, or make him curious enough, at least start looking into the question. Maybe I can create a certain process there. There are
One
different
of the
kinds of
things-
challenges.
Yes, one of the things that if we take a step back, why is this even an issue? There are certainly people, and I think I'm one of them, that believe that we are hardwired to want something more than what we are, and the search for God. There must be something out there, and I think it's stronger in Jews than in many other people. And one reason that there's so much grief in the world sometimes is because Jews look in all the wrong places. They don't use Judaism to get to where they're trying to go. They find something else. Every single ism that you can think of that has damaged the world is heavily populated by intellectual Jews.
Mhm.
So I think there's a driving force that we have to try and harness somehow.
In a very similar way, there was always a potential there that needed good guidance. You think of Karl Marx,
Yes.
and of course there's social tikkun olam in the basic idea, but without a framework and a direction, and think of communism, equality, wonderful ideas, but yes, it needs, one of the things it needs is faith to make it always, it has to be always trying to be pulled up to something higher and not just about us. So that maybe Judaism ingrained within us that we have to make something better. We don't always know how to do it. But again, I would turn to the teachers and say, hey, guys, we need to be able to develop and strengthen our tools and our abilities to be able to help these people make a good thing out of these ideas and these directions that they're taking.
So I think what I heard from Eliezer, and I agree, is that you need a framework to help you grapple with these, and Judaism is our framework. And
yeah, but again, I'm saying I agree, and we can all agree here. But HaRav Kook is dealing not with his private life. HaRav Kook is dealing with the generation. HaRav Kook wants to have tools and answers for the generation, and he grows up in the second half of the 19th century, after democracy, French Revolution, a lot of again, what is it called? The Ma'apecha Ta'asiyatit, the
Industrial Revolution.
Industrial Revolution.
Revolution.
People have so much more time on their hands. They can study much more. The abilities to spread knowledge are much greater. Freedom, equality, etc., etc., etc. The Jewish communities went through, I hate using the word Shoah for other things that are not the Shoah, but the Jewish communities went through a Shoah in Jewish terms, in terms of Judaism, of faith, of mitzvot. The frameworks fell apart. And HaRav Kook is trying to do something constructive, not just to yell at them and say, you're a Rashaim, Ata Rasha, you're a heretic, get out of here, we're against you. Not only to close ourselves in of strong walls of a framework of those Jews who are still believers. He wants to try and have a tool that's going to say something relevant to these generations. And that's why I think it's so valuable, not only to agree with ourselves that we need a framework in which to deal with our questions and to be able to refine our emunah, we also have to think about what's going on in the world, what's going on. What is divine providence doing here? It's not good enough just to close ourselves within ourselves. What is divine providence doing here that's going to be good for the world? How is that going to happen? Can I help it along? All these questions. Let's have someone who hasn't spoken yet. Tova and Mark.
Okay. I just want to say that there are some psalms that are actually expressing this idea of God's existence with not bringing proof to God's existence, is looking at the world, looking how the world functions. Like, for an example, is Psalm 19, right? Which way it talks about the skies, that the heavens that השמיים מספרים כבוד אלו, מעשה ידיו מגיד רקיע. So the Hashem's footprints and fingerprints, are there in the world. We just have to look at them. He's talking about the fact that the sky, if we look at the sky and we look at the sun and the moon and the stars, and we see the fact that there is a cycle, there's night and there's day, and everything is done, and you don't even hear a sound. Nobody is ordering them. Nobody is telling them to do that, and yet they have this order that's there. So some hidden hand must be managing all this. So this is very beautiful.
Okay. I totally agree. I'm going to quote a different psalm. I thought you were going in that direction, but it's fine. But again, I'm trying to hear HaRav Kook's call, and I'm trying to how do you say, what's the term in English? I'm trying to recall it, not just recall it, to give voice to HaRav Kook's voice, calling out to us that it's not good enough that we have our basis for faith. What we have to ask ourselves is, and just to stay within our religious community and say, well, we have faith. The whole world has gone off the deep end, but we're still here. I think it's important that, I think HaRav Kook is saying to us, look at the generation. There's some reason for the processes that we see. The divine providence is doing something or saying something here. And we have to listen to that and try and understand it and trying to be influential and help and constructive in making it move along in a positive direction. Not every one of us is HaRav Kook and is going to be able to write, how do you say, profusely? What's the term? Profusely. Thank you. And in such extent, such broad, wow. And to have students afterwards are going to continue his teachings and so on. But at least we can, even if we support the idea that such a thing exists, so we support the people who go in that direction. Maybe we raise children or encourage people to raise children who will be able to study these things and develop tools and so on, and give ruach gabit. How do you say that in English? To give back, back wind that's pushing forward. Yeah. Those people who are doing that. So I think this is something important to notice in what HaRav Kook is saying. Mark.
Hi guys, I'm sorry I missed the first half of the seminar, but I'm
Welcome
pleased to be
from
able
the
to join
Arctic
you.
Circle. Are you still in the
Pardon
Arctic
me?
Circle?
On my way.
Are you still on planet Earth?
There are three people here who will have to answer that. I've joined them, and they're very graciously giving me their facilities in the Telkwa Historic Museum in north central British Columbia. Anyway, it's 10 degrees outside and raining. Anyway, as you know, I love to discuss symmetry and asymmetry between religion and science, and so it occurs to me as I joined you that science has, religion has, I think you were talking about religion having more or less an obligation to allow the world of science to penetrate in some way. That is, to be aware that there are other ways of thinking that can be productive, that can be insightful, that can be illuminating, that can be helpful, whatever you want to call it. And religion has an obligation to, the obligation is perhaps strong, but it would be nice if religion would allow science, and people who are religious would allow themselves to be open to the world of science. But that's the question of symmetry, because then the scientists have an obligation to allow the world of religion to enter the world of science. Science without religion, or if you prefer, science without ethics, is a very, very dangerous activity. And therefore, science has an obligation to allow religion and religious ethics to enter into scientists' lives and the life of science. So I love this idea of symmetry, and I think you've, expressed one side of it, religion allowing science or the secular world to encroach or to join, and science has an obligation to allow religion and ethics to join.
I would just add to that that just like I was speaking about the need for both terms and thoughts and frameworks within which we can think about faith and emunah, and we can, like a ladder, try to grow and try to move and develop in our ability to connect to something that we will never actually define. And at the same time, understand that these tools are only tools and they are not God himself. And to use both and to remember the distinction between them, I would use the same kind of thinking here about religion or faith and science. These are two different perspectives, two different ways of looking at things. They ask different questions, they're seeking different goals, but they certainly should and certainly can, and I would add should, be able to connect and discuss and interact and enrich, going both ways. And at the same time, they always have to keep the distinction between them. You're not going to make the scientific decisions only based on faith, and you shouldn't make decisions about faith only based on science, but they should be able to influence and enrich one another. Eliezer.
Thanks. And when you talk about tools, I think the best tool is tikkun olam, that if you make the world a better place, then the light shines better. And people tend to, when they see that the world is a better place, I think their faith increases. And this can be somebody like Rav Soloveitchik, and then it also can be somebody like Isaac Asimov. But the thing is that the important thing is, I think we as observant Jews have a special obligation to make the world a better place, because, and I think more like Tama than Pinui, whatever it's, because because if people look at us and see us destroying, then their faith decreases. And if they look at us and they see us building a wonderful place, like Israel can be, then I think their faith increases.
But I have to say, Eliezer, that part of the question is, at what point do we enter the arena? Because sometimes you can take a building and perform tama, and sometimes you can intervene or take initiative on religious and moral and social and other questions in a way that can make a difference, and at the same time not leave ruins behind it, and strengthen the frameworks and make them, even refine the frameworks, but come along with the tama method rather than the pinui binui method. And sometimes the building is so it's dangerous, and you got to get the people out before it falls on their heads, and you got to take it down, tear it down, and the only option is to tear it down and build a new one. And sometimes the building has collapsed, and now you can sit there and cry about it and say, well, I'm going to stay in my strong home and not go out because it's dangerous out there, and at least I'll take care of myself. Or you can say, I'm going to look for the people out there and see how I can help them and help build a new building for them. And so all these different things exist in the world, these different situations. And then I think, again, we have to address all of them and see that sometimes we didn't wake up on time and some buildings collapsed, and we have to go in and deal with that. And sometimes the only thing that we can do is something is going to collapse, and maybe in the future we'll be able to help it move along. There are all kinds of different people in different situations and different generations. And I would add something that I read today. Here's a challenge, Eliezer, for you, but for all of us. Is the Western liberal world capable of putting brakes on some extreme liberalism that's enabling people who are very not liberal to take over and wipe them out? Are they going to be able to develop tools to stop on time? Again, this is not the same question that we're dealing with now, but But again, what do we do about it? Are we just going to say, well, I'm happy with my community? Or are we going to look for a way to make a difference in the world and influence these questions? I don't know. I try, you try. We're all trying, and hopefully we can make a constructive contribution to make the world move forward. And it's not to say that the Western liberal world is all bad. I'm not that kind of person. There are people who say that, and I firmly disagree with them. And again, they're saying you have some values that are different than mine and some destructive values. I agree with that. But then you say, oh, so you're all destructive, so I don't want to have anything to do with you. Go. I'm happy to see you falling apart. Bye-bye. You're going to be all gone. We're going to be left here. I don't want to say that there either. I don't want to say that about heresy and faith. I don't want to say that about faith that doesn't allow questions of heresy. I would like us always to be looking around and seeing what's happening, what are the processes, how can we make a constructive difference? And we can't do everything. Not one of us can do everything, and not all of us can do everything, but every one of us should try to do something about something, at least. So I was going to go on to a different paragraph. I told you about it last time that this is from the book that Moshe Ebner's mother put out. I sent that to many of you by email. Gila, I'll talk to you about where to send it to you for next time. Save it there for next time, or maybe I'll be able to send it again. We sent it once, should be able to send it another time. We'll do that next time. For today, I'd still like to end with two things. First of all, the question that I have here in yellow, why is the headline, remember the beginning of this, it's not a paragraph, it's more than a paragraph. It's like a small essay from HaRav Kook. Why is the headline Yisurim Emarkim, suffering cleanses or suffering purifies? I think now it's clear. Why is the headline suffering cleanses or purifies? What do you say? Go ahead, jump in.
Well, you're trying to get down to the essence and get rid of all of the fake stuff that we all carry with us.
And why suffering?
Because it's a painful process.
Yeah, says the doctor. If you need an operation to take something out that's not good for your body, it's good for your body to take it out, but it hurts. And it's good for, there are some things that are good for your soul to take out, but it's painful. And some people took them out too strongly, and they took out some other organs that are very essential for our spirituality, so to speak, and it's very painful. But we have to do something about it, and it's easy to sit back on my couch and watch the world from afar and not do anything. It's more painful to get into the arena and try and deal with the difficulties. But at the end, it's going to cleanse or purify ourselves, our belief, other people's ability to join belief and to join positive values and so on. So this is the headline, Yisurim Emarkim, suffering cleanses or purifies. And I will end, Tova, you mentioned one parak in Tehillim with a different parak in Tehillim. Here are the psukim in Hebrew, and here they are in English. You don't have it, it's Tehillim 105. Tehillim 105. I did this after I printed the sheets for today. Okay. Tehillim 105, right at the beginning. It's very similar. It's parallel to psukim that we say in Shacharit from Divrei Hayamim, but these are the psukim in Tehillim. I'm going to read it in English, right? The beginning of 105. I'm just helping Nitael find the 105. He's making progress. There he is. Yeah. Almost. 105. Look at the English. It's very small printing. Give praise to the Lord. Proclaim his name. Make known among the nations what he has done. Very nice. Sing to him, praise to him, tell of all his wonderful acts. Tova, that goes well with the Tehillim that you quoted before. Glory in his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Who is going to rejoice? The hearts of those who
seek him.
Seek the Lord, not the hearts of those who
rejected him.
Not rejected him, and not those who found him. It's not the hearts of those who know the Lord. who have found the Lord, who can find the tangible Lord. They don't read, that's not what I'm looking for. I am commending, is that a good verb? I am commending those who seek the Lord. I'm saying that is faith. You see great things in the world and it makes you look for something. You're seeking something. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Look to the Lord in his strength. Seek his face always. Seek. It's something that I'm looking for. The wonders he has done, his miracles, the judgments he pronounced, wonderful. But I don't see him. I don't see his face. I seek his face. That is emunah. I think this chapter in Tehillim is saying this is faith. Faith is to seek Hashem, not to say, I found him. Come, I'll show you. I'll give you the statue that I have and you can make a replica of it. No, it's something that you have to seek within your own soul.
But the headline, suffering cleanses or purifies. This is a quote that he wants to refute. He's not he doesn't believe in it. That's what I understand, that he doesn't.
HaRav Kook doesn't believe in it?
Yeah, he doesn't accept that. He wants to.
He definitely does. He supports it. He's saying that heresy is causing religious people with faith, it's causing them suffering, and trying to deal with it is more suffering, and allowing yourself to open to the questions, and it's going to change your faith. And you're going to lose some elements that you thought were faith. But I'm telling you, says HaRav Kook, check out this idea that they are mud that has stuck onto your faith. And it's refining your faith to let go of them. But that's very painful. It's like a physical operation. It's a spiritual operation on your soul.
Okay.
It hurts. But at the end, it's going to cause purifying and refinement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We meet again in 2 weeks. Sorry?
Is it possible to use the word challenge rather than suffering?
It's possible, but I think he shows. I identify with his choice of suffering. It's painful. It's painful as an individual. It's painful as a generation. It's painful in the process of several generations. I experience that it's painful for myself. I see that it's so painful for some people that they run away from it. You know, like people who they have a physical ailment and they don't go to the doctor because they're afraid what the doctor is going to tell them. So they don't deal with it and the pain only grows. And all these different experiences, they're very painful.
Yes.
But then you go to the doctor and then you go to the operation and it's even more painful. But at the end, it cures you and makes you stronger.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Okay.
Night.